Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to our webcast this morning around Skype for Business Cloud PBX. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. I know it's a bit of a struggle to come back to work on a Tuesday. My name's David Hitwell. I am, as it says on here, an Office 365 E5 specialist. But to give you a little bit of background, prior to joining Visual, I was at Microsoft for 9 years. And for 4 of those I worked with Skype and Link. So my background is very much unified communications, and prior to that actually I worked for Cisco as well. I'm joined today by Mark Vale, who will be taking over the technology piece a little bit later on. We dive a little bit deeper into the technology pieces. Mark is unified communications consultant here at Visual, and we've also got Brian Kane here, who heads up our business group. So we are recording this session, so people will be able to get their hands on it afterwards, or if anybody wasn't able to make it this morning, they'll still be able to view it. But thank you very much. So quick run through of the agenda here. We've got a lot to get through. The introductions we've just done. We're going to have an overview of Visual, an overview of Skype, and then I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to go into a bit more detail around deployment options and functionality that's available now and the roadmap situation that we're facing. Then we'll have a look at the licensing and that dark and murky world of Microsoft licensing that we have to deal with, and there's a couple of offers on at the minute from Microsoft, which may be of interest to people looking to dip their toe in the water around Cloud PBX, and then we'll look at next steps. The Q&A piece, if people would like to submit Q&A during the session, there's a little tab down the bottom that they can use to submit it, and we will deal with those at the end. Or if you'd rather send an email afterwards, you can drop us an email at inquiries@visual.com. As I mentioned, we're recording the session, but if I could just ask everyone to make sure your phone is muted, just to keep that background noise as low as we can. Okay, so quick introduction to Visual. So key point here is that Visual are a Microsoft only partner. So we only deploy Microsoft technology, but what makes us quite unique within the marketplace is that we can deploy across the whole of the Microsoft stack. So whether you're looking to move to Azure, Office 365 or Skype in this case, we can do that, as well as looking at Windows 10 deployments, System Center deployments, etc., etc., etc. So we deploy across the whole of the stack. The impact is that we know what we're doing, we know how to deploy this stuff because we're experts in it, and there's going to be a knock-on effect in terms of the amount of time it takes for us to deploy that piece of technology, so we get things done very, very efficiently. The key to this is that most people have an enterprise agreement. We realise that these can sometimes be a substantial investment, so you want to get the most you possibly can. So selecting a deployment partner that you can trust to deploy across the whole of the stack is vitally important. We are a Tier 1 Microsoft partner, and actually we are the UK Country Partner of the Year this year, which is a pretty outstanding achievement. We've been the finalists for a couple of years previously, as you can see, but that puts us in a pretty unique situation. So just a quick look across our business. We're divided into 3 different parts. One is consulting, another one is services, and the third one is solutions. So there are 2 parts to our consulting arm. These are basically our deployment services. So on the one hand, we've got our business group, which is headed up by Brian, who's with us today. And this unit comprises of fundamentally enterprise architects and project managers. The focus of this group is much larger transformational projects, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. So whereas we're not looking at necessarily point solutions where somebody might ask us to deploy a SharePoint or Exchange or whatever, we're looking at how we can get multiple products working together to meet a particular aim or meet a particular strategy that you may well have. The technology group is divided into 5 practices: cloud infrastructure, UC and messaging, where Mark sits, business productivity, application development, and CRM. And these guys are very much focused on particular product areas, particular areas of specialization, but they will of course get dragged into the business group if we're deploying a large transformational project. The services element Managed services, as you would expect, proactive, reactive, very different range of services available depending on how much you want us to support the implementation that perhaps we've done, or perhaps an implementation that we haven't done that you want somebody to pick up the support from afterwards. And then we have our solutions group, rapidly developing. We're developing individual solutions based mainly on Office 365 for areas like justice and education, whereby it becomes much more specific to certain verticals. So, as I mentioned, we're dealing very much with transformational projects. So we're seeing the shift in the business away from to deploy a particular point solution to getting multiple products working together. And the three big ones that we generally get involved in are connected business, end user computing, and optimized service vision. To just give you sort of one line on each one of these. Connected business, if you imagine a fire engine or an ambulance, when they turn up at a scene, they want to have as much information at their fingertips as they possibly can about who's there, who's injured, what's the state of the building, what's the state of the incident, etc. So this is about presenting the right information to the right people at the right time. Next one is end user computing. So typically this is where people are looking to modernize the desktop environment. They're looking to introduce mobile flexible working. So it's bringing all those products together to see how we can implement a solution, but of course keeping a mind on security and identity and all the other bits and pieces that sit around it to make sure it's a manageable solution. Optimized service vision takes a view from the data center. So it's what is the best way of delivering your service that you're trying to provide out to your end users. Is that a fully cloud-based solution? Is that a hybrid solution, or is it an on-premise solution? So it's not a one-size-fits-all, but it's how we can get the Microsoft stack working together to deliver what you need to deliver. Right, so let's spend a little bit of time. Let's dive a little bit deeper into Skype for Business. So we're gonna touch briefly on these four areas before I hand over to Mark. Complete meeting solution. So what one-stop shop in effect. Modern voice with cloud PBX, which is the main focus of this presentation today. Skype across devices and how flexible it is, and then we're looking at operator services directly from Microsoft. Apologies for rushing, but we have got a lot to get through. So complete meeting solution. My assumption is that most people have dipped their toe in some shape or form into Skype, or have had a look at Skype. So when we're talking about Skype meeting, we're in effect replacing the need for people to travel to a meeting, replacing the need for a face-to-face meeting, or we're supplementing a face-to-face meeting with people who couldn't make it. So we're looking at introducing HD video, desktop presentation, sharing, co-authoring, etc., 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 IM and presence, etc. We can use Microsoft are introducing PSTN conferencing directly into Skype Online. So what this basically means is that we have dial-in conferencing, so people can be on a phone, don't necessarily need to join the rest of the meeting, or dial-out conferencing. Key advantage here is that it's priced on a per user per month basis. So if you compare it to alternative providers on the marketplace, which generally charge on a per user per meeting scenario, it works out very, very cost effective to move down this way. And it's also very, very predictable in terms of the bill you'll be receiving at the end of the month. New piece of functionality, Skype meeting broadcast. So this is a town hall type scenario where you can reach up to 10,000 people at any one time. So you may be the CEO of a company. You might want to reach out to everybody who works within your company. It's a very simple way for people to join a large broadcasted meetings with the controls in place through a standard web browser. So it's simple for the end user to understand exactly what's going on. So that's a new piece of functionality that we've introduced there. Modern voice with cloud. So this is really what we're talking about here. So one of the key things about Skype is that your number in effect follows you wherever you go. So we have simultaneous ringing, call forward. We have the desktop clients. We have the clients on the mobile on your mobile phone, on your iPad and your iPhone, etc. So your number is able to follow you wherever you go. So you can always be in touch with it if you want to stay in touch with it. We're looking to, in the short term, and Mark will go into a lot more detail around this, about the hybrid model of being able to interoperate with existing assets, and we're talking about PBXs, gateways, on-premise pieces of equipment. I think the goal over time for everybody, as systems start to degrade and become expensive to maintain, is to replace or potentially replace all on-premise equipment with a cloud-based solution. Obviously, as Cloud PBX will be part of Office 365, so all the management tools that you have available within Office 365 will be available for this environment as well. So in terms of the management of users and the management of numbers, it becomes much, much simpler. Skype across devices, so it's about flexibility. You know, as I mentioned before, there are mobile applications for the Windows Phone, Android phone, and iOS phone. So pretty much whatever device you have, there is an application for it. Not precluding the fact that PSTN conferencing will work on any of those devices anyway. And we're also talking about the integration into existing meeting spaces. So Skype for Business Room Systems and Service Hubs. Most people would have heard of those, and it's being able to integrate those meeting spaces into the online experience. We're also talking about Project Rigel, which has been announced by Microsoft, and this is all about interoperability with other vendors' solutions, as well as taking advantage of Windows 10 devices to start to come up with a consistent experience across all devices. So one of the major steps forward is that Microsoft very soon will be offering PSTN calling from directly within Office 365, so there won't be a need to go back on premise in order to make that connection out to the PSTN. Once again, predictable billing. You will be given a certain number of minutes per person, but those minutes will be pooled across the whole of your tenant. So just because one person might use more, somebody else wouldn't, so you pool it across the whole of the estate, and all of a sudden you've got a very predictable solution. And most people have heard of ExpressRoute for Office 365 for providing that high quality voice and video experience. So I'm almost out of my time slot, and I'll get kicked if I don't hurry up. So I'll quickly go through these two slides. So we're talking about maximising the value for meetings. So we're looking at this from two perspectives. One is the IT perspective, and the other one is the business perspective. The IT perspective is all about manageability, eliminating multiple systems, eliminating multiple management systems, eliminating dual billing, etc. And the business side of these things is about how can we provide a good set of tools to the end user, how can we lower total cost of ownership, how can we encourage people to adopt these tools, to modernize the way that they conduct their business. But also we're talking about ensuring that end users are prepared to adopt that technology. So we have certain offerings that we have around user adoption and training to make sure that people are adopting these tools and wanting to use these tools and finding this as easy as possible, which can be tailored. And if we look at the maximising the value from voice, I've mentioned the PSTN calling before, predictable pricing, ease of procurement. But if I just concentrate on the Cloud PBX minute for the now, we're talking about in the end avoiding redundant systems and duplicate systems, so we're not having to replace expensive PBXs, we're not having to take out expensive maintenance and support contracts on those PBXs, we're moving everything eventually to the cloud, as it says there, a lower total cost of ownership. And the whole administration, the ease with which you can manage numbers, and soon you'll be able to get your numbers from Microsoft directly, or if you've got numbers existing, you can port those numbers over into Office 365. So it's an easy case of managing those. And we're talking, of course, vendor consolidation. We're talking about that anywhere business phone experience, so people can decide they want they can work from home or work from a coffee shop, and it means the long-term impact is that you can have some consolidation around a state of reducing the number of buildings you have and introduce hot desking, etc. So at this point, I know that was a bit rushed, so apologies, but I'll hand over to Mark now, who's going to basically look at these different scenarios. We've got three choices around deployment with Skype. We've got an on-premise hybrid solution where we've got a bit of cloud, bit of on-premise, and then we've got a full cloud solution. So Mark, if I could hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Dave. Just wait for my slides to load. Okay, so we start off with what is Cloud PBX. So for those of you who joined our Cloud PBX webcast back in November, and if you haven't, please visit skype.al/Cloud PBX cast. If you haven't, you may be familiar with what is coming very soon to Skype for Business Online in the UK and globally. Since then, there have been a number of new announcements made by Microsoft as this feature gets closer to general availability. To recap, Cloud PBX is a feature that provides businesses with the opportunity to move away from traditional, expensive on-premises telephony solutions to Unified Communications as a Service, or UCaaS, completely or partially within the Microsoft Cloud. It is important to remember, as we progress through this webcast, I am talking about users and services homed in Skype for Business Online and not Skype for Business Server, unless specifically making reference towards. It is also worth remembering, if I make reference to the word Skype, I am only talking about Skype for Business and not the consumer version. There are two distinct deployment models for Cloud PBX. Cloud only, or Cloud PBX with PSTN calling, is where Microsoft acts as your Internet Telephony Service Provider, or ITSP, and is responsible for connecting your Skype for Business Online users to the PSTN and vice versa. In this deployment model, all services are hosted in the cloud and no on-premise equipment beyond a laptop or a headset for each user is required. The second deployment option is hybrid cloud, or Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling. This is where users are located in Office 365 and consume Skype for Business Online services. However, instead of Microsoft as your ITSP for access to the PSTN, you use your existing on-premise PSTN connections. Starting in May 2016, Microsoft brings Cloud PBX with PSTN calling to the UK in preview. You can sign up to this preview using www.skypepreview.com. Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling is available in preview now. These two deployment options allow businesses to make flexible and least-risk decisions on their future telephony service. It is important to understand that choosing either deployment model at the outset does not limit you to one deployment track. At any time, the decision to switch models is under your control. You can even run both tracks at the same time, portioning users between cloud-only or hybrid cloud voice models in order to extract the best value out of your investment. For instance, consider the scenario where a business has a high volume of outbound calls from the sales department. This business may have negotiated a better than market rate calling plan with their current on-premise telephony service provider. Moving these users to Cloud PBX with PSTN calling may not be cost efficient, or the outbound call volume may exceed the limits placed on Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. This does not stop the business, however, moving these sales users to Skype for Business Online. Instead of assigning a Cloud PBX with PSTN calling plan, these users can be assigned a hybrid voice policy that allows them to use Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling. This allows the business to maintain a relationship with the on-premise telephony carrier, extract the best return on investment, and ultimately provide the best set of collaborative tools for sales users. Other departments within your business, however, may not have the same calling habits as the sales department, and therefore assigning them a Cloud PBX with PSTN calling plan is the most cost-effective solution. Using both deployment models, businesses can ensure they make significant savings on telephony expenditure while enriching employee well-being, naturally promoting remote working and increasing employee productivity and business decision-making. Cloud PBX with PSTN calling allows business to move their telephony services completely into the cloud. Think of this as a completely independent phone system hosted completely in Office 365 and Microsoft's global delivery network. As such, Microsoft will become your ITSP for PSTN calling, making Office 365 a one-stop shop for all your unified communications requirements. Using Cloud PBX with PSTN calling, businesses can roll out PSTN calling capabilities to specific users or an entire office in the time it takes to make a cup of tea. You can choose from a global pool of block telephone numbers that can be reserved and assigned to users, or you can port your existing numbers from your current provider to Office 365 using the built-in number porting function within the Office 365 admin portal. You can choose to port some or all your numbers at any one time. However, if your request contains 1,000 or more numbers to port, this must be submitted as a support ticket via the admin portal. When a user is enabled for PSTN calling, they are assigned a calling plan which provides them with an outbound minute allowance that they consume per month. It also unlocks the functionality required to assign the user's telephone number to the cloud. Without a calling plan, a user cannot make or receive a PSTN call using Skype for Business Online. Ideal use cases for Cloud PBX and PSTN calling is for remote or road warrior workers, new or existing branch sites with no legacy telephony services, and users who have simple dialing requirements. The Cloud PBX feature is included in Office 365 E5 license. This allows you to take advantage of Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling with no additional charge. If you do not have E5 licenses, Cloud PBX can be added as an add-on subscription to either E1 or E3 subscriptions. However, we would encourage you to consider upgrading your subscriptions to E5 as they are significantly better value for money than adding add-ons. For Cloud PBX with PSTN calling or cloud-only telephony services, in addition to the E5 license, a calling plan subscription is required for each user enabled for Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. Microsoft have not yet released the UK pricing for these plans, but it is expected to be competitive. There will be two calling plan options available, a national calling plan and an international calling plan. The national calling plan will allow users to make up to 3,000 minutes of calls to UK numbers per month, while an international calling plan will allow 3,000 minutes of calls to national numbers and 600 minutes to international numbers. Calling plans, although assigned to individual users, are pulled together at tenant level. So this means that minutes can be shared across all Cloud PBX with PSTN calling enabled users. For example, if 10 users are enabled with a national calling plan, then collectively they can consume 30,000 minutes worth of UK calls between them per month. If all the pooled tenant minutes are consumed before the end of the subscription month, then outbound PSTN calling is suspended except for emergency numbers. There is no option for prepaid credits or top-ups currently, although this is expected to be added at a later date. You do not need Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling. You do not need a calling plan in addition to your E5 license to use Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling. In this scenario, you will only be limited by your service provider subscriptions. However, to enable this feature, a hybrid connection is required between your on-premise infrastructure and Office 365. This means you do need some Skype for Business on-premise hardware. For businesses with existing on-premises Skype for Business server who have enterprise voice deployed already with edge and reverse proxy services, no additional investments are required. Instead, configuring Skype for Business Hybrid will instantly make Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling available to your Skype for Business online home users. For businesses with Skype for Business server using instant messaging presence only, additional investments in edge reverse proxy and also a session border controller will be required in order to make the connection between Office 365 and your on-premise PSTN connection. For businesses with no Skype for Business server deployment, including Link, there are two options available to you. Option one is to deploy an on-premise Skype for Business server with a session border controller and configure hybrid. Option two is to use a new Skype for Business Cloud Connector Edition, releasing worldwide as a free download with no additional software license in April 2016. Businesses can deploy Cloud Connector Edition to on-premise infrastructure in order to create the hybrid connection to Office 365. This option is the simplest and quickest way to connect your on-premise PSTN connection to Office 365 for Cloud PBX. The Cloud Connector Edition is a lightweight Skype for Business server deployment consisting of a mediation, central management server, AD domain controller, and edge server. It does not act as a registrar or front-end server and therefore cannot be used to home service users or services such as conferencing, instant messaging. All users must be home with Skype for Business Online to use Cloud Connector Edition. Although free, there are some additional investments required. The Cloud Connector Edition is a virtual machine package that requires a Hyper-V host. Other hypervisors are not supported at the moment, so if you have VMware or Zen Server, Cloud Connector Edition won't install on these just yet. Public SSL certificates will also need to be purchased, and most importantly, a session border controller may need to be purchased to provide the connectivity between the Cloud Connector Edition and the PSTN connection on your on-premise. Legacy PBXs may also be used instead of a session border controller, however, only if they're certified PBXs for Skype for Business server. Cloud PBX is a new service that is continually evolving. During its infancy, limited features are available to Cloud PBX users. These limitations will ultimately guide the decision whether whether to enable a user for Cloud PBX or retain them on premises. As of today, the main features available to Cloud PBX users in both deployment models are mobile device support, limited desk phone support using the Polycom VVX series phones, or the CX600, or the CX3000, the HP 4210, or the Mitel MyVoice 6725. These are supported for direct connection to Cloud PBX, subject to a firmware upgrade. Basic call controls such as call answer, hold, retrieve, transfer, camp on, which is call waiting, simultaneous ring, voicemail, which doesn't rely on Exchange in Office 365 anymore. It's a standalone service built specifically for Skype for Business Online. Delegation such as boss admin, and team calling. For an up-to-date supported feature list, please browse to rigid.al/Cloud PBX features. As Cloud PBX matures, it is expected that the feature list will grow, reaching parity with on-premise server by the end of 2017. For users who need more advanced telephony control, such as contact centers, response groups, hunt groups, and integration with third-party applications, these users must remain on premises for the time being. For any on-premises home users or applications that use outbound or inbound PSTN calling habits, these must remain on-premises to continue to make on-premise service PSTN connections. These users cannot be assigned Cloud PBX with PSTN calling plan and use the Microsoft PSTN gateway. Cloud PBX with PSTN calling is only available to Skype for Business Online users. Not all businesses will take the big leap towards Skype for Business Cloud PBX with PSTN calling in one go. There will be a period of time where this must coexist with legacy telephony services. By using a mixture of hybrid, Cloud Connect Edition, and cloud-only solutions, businesses can dip their toe in the world of hosted cloud telephony without making significant impacts and investments up front. The try-before-you-buy approach that allows businesses to experience the world of Office 365 and the benefits of E5 immediately with no impact to business as usual. Using either Cloud Connector Edition or on-premise Skype for Business Server Hybrid, integrations can be made that will allow users to experience online PSTN conferencing, instant message, presence, federation, Cloud PBX on-premise PSTN calling, as well as connecting to your legacy PBX system for internal calling. Cloud PBX with PSTN calling cannot be trialed, as you need to purchase a calling plan. This provides a full unified and collaborative experience for users with least risk and impact to business as usual services. Trials can be turned into production deployments simply by subscribing to a paid subscription. For businesses looking to move towards Cloud PBX with PSTN calling, choosing the correct PSTN identity for a user is important. Businesses can choose to retain their existing DDI numbers and transfer them to Office 365, or choose from a pool of geographic numbers provided by Microsoft. Cloud PBX supports timed number migrations, so that you can be sure to when these migrations will come into effect. Until recently, PSTN conferencing in Skype for Business, also known as dialing conferencing, has traditionally been a server-only feature. To offer this functionality to attendees, presenters, it meant that Skype for Business server had to be configured to use local on-premise PSTN connection as well as hosted in the conference. For Skype for Business Online users, this meant that they could not host a dialing conference and would often require an on-premises user to schedule a dialing conference for them. This often posed a significant problem for end-user operation and adoption that made the decision to move users online viable only for users who required instant messaging and presence capabilities. Available now in the UK and from May 2016 in over 100 countries, Skype for Business Online provides PSTN conferencing for all Skype for Business Online users, inclusive of your E5 license. This is an all-you-can-eat conferencing service with no limits to the number of conferences or duration that can be held per day, per week, or month. This means businesses can now schedule and host their external meetings completely in the cloud so long as the hybrid has been configured. This is a significant development that provides businesses with scale, performance, and geographic reach for their conferencing by offloading the conference workload to Office 365 relieves the on-premise infrastructure from burden, providing normal day-to-day performance, improving normal day-to-day performance. For Skype for Business Server in hybrid configuration, I recommend that any meetings for internal and federated that require no PSTN capabilities continue to be hosted on premises until such time as the move to the cloud only is complete. For dialing conferencing meetings, it is much better to create these meetings in Skype for Business Online with PSTN capabilities for Office 365. Why? Well, businesses no longer need to worry about the capacity on their PSTN connections for meetings with a large number of PSTN attendees. Consider the scenario where a meeting organizer is expecting 50 dialing over PSTN attendees. The maximum capacity of the on-premise PSTN connections available to the businesses is 60. When this meeting takes place, only 10 channels are available for the rest of the business for inbound and outbound calling. This may be insufficient for a normal business operation. Traditionally, the meeting organizer must first have the foresight to recognize this potentially crippling issue. The business must then make the decision of whether to increase their PSTN line capacity, costing additional money, or use third-party providers to host a conference. Again, not only costing money, but also disrupts the presenter and introduces an additional level of additional fear factor that could impact on the quality of the meeting. Instead, by providing them with unlimited PSTN conferencing through Skype for Business Online and E5 services, the businesses can maximize their existing return on investment without additional costs, and the presenter feels relaxed, comfortable, and able to deliver that killer sales pitch that will land you that £1 million contract you've been chasing for the last 6 months. Businesses can also extend the reach of PSTN conferences globally by providing geographic numbers to attendees based on their country of residence at no extra cost to your E5 license subscription. For businesses, this means they do not need to make additional investments in providing local dialing conferencing numbers in multiple countries. Attendees can join using cheap rate and in some cases toll-free numbers often covered by their own inclusive calling plan with their mobile and online provider, rather than paying for expensive international calls. In addition to all this, E5 license users are able to use PSTN conferencing dial-out at no additional cost. This allows presenters to join a Skype for Business online meeting using a normal Skype for Business client, but instead of using their laptop for audio, they can automatically dial out the audio to their desk phone or mobile. This is useful for conferencing on the move or where users may be connected to low-grade networks such as public wireless. Please note that with Cloud PBX, in any deployment model, cloud-only, Skype for Business Server Hybrid, or Cloud Connector Edition, users who are homed in Skype for Business Online must use the Microsoft Conferencing Bridge in Office 365. This means currently you are unable to use a local number provided by your on-premise ITSP as your dialing conferencing access number for Skype for Business Online hosted conferences. Instead, you must choose your default number provided by Microsoft within Skype for Business Online. For the UK, this means an 020 number or London dialing access number rather than your local area. While moving to the cloud or hybrid cloud as for telephony services becoming the logical choice, there are a number of important considerations for businesses before it can be relied upon. The most important factor in any enterprise voice scenario beyond functionality is quality of service. Bandwidth, connectivity, and even hardware performance issues are amplified when real-time data is used. Poor performance contributes to user workload, stress, and mood. This can often escalate an already difficult conversation with customers and colleagues into a heightened state. The impacts and results of this can be enormous, including loss of business, customers, and staff. Using Skype for Business Online with Cloud PBX for PSTN calling or on-premise PSTN calling does not require any special network connections. It will work using a normal internet connection. However, there are several problems using existing internet lines. Adding real-time media to an already utilized internet connection adds considerable bandwidth, and therefore there may not be sufficient capacity within this connection to support the new workloads being sent over it. Internet connections are generally asymmetric in that the rate at which you send data to the internet, otherwise known as your upload speed, can be 10 times slower than the rate at which you can receive, known as your download speed. The impact of this type of connection is that users will receive an uneven and inconsistent calling experience. There may be some security concerns over sending voice data over the public internet. Although each voice packet is encrypted by TLS between on-premises and Office 365, you are not in control of which third-party networks, routers, firewalls, packet optimizers your conversations passes through to reach Office 365. Should there ever be a vulnerability exposed to the TLS protocol, this could leave your voice traffic susceptible to compromise. In addition to the possible security concerns, the way guarantee a voice data packet end-to-end. In order to prevent these problems, Microsoft have invested heavily in designing a dedicated global delivery network to deliver real-time communications, and Microsoft call it their global delivery network. The global delivery network allows businesses the opportunity to connect their network directly into it using dedicated low latency connections. This is known as the Microsoft Office Express route for Office 365. The Microsoft Express route for Office 365 is a different connection and subscription to the existing Microsoft Express route for Azure. Therefore, businesses who have already subscribed to Azure Express route will need additional investments to bring this connection to Office 365. Express route is provided by Microsoft partners, and not all partners can currently provide an Express route connectivity to Office 365. For the UK, we have a choice of Colt, BT, AT&T, Netbond, Equinix, Level 3, Telecity, and Verizon, Orange, and Vodafone. For more information on Office 365 Express Route, please visit regie.al/Express Route. By implementing an Express Route connection allows businesses and Microsoft to apply and guarantee quality of service methodologies to real-time traffic end-to-end, as well as securing your data for exchange away from public networks. Express Route is not covered by your Office 365 E5 license and is in an independent subscription. Microsoft realized that providing your enterprise services can have serious impacts to your business process in times of outage. Therefore, in order to deliver confidence and accountability, Microsoft have produced a financially backed service level agreement that businesses can call against in times of an outage. The latest SLA document can be downloaded at regie.al/Office 365 SLA. Key extracts from this document for Skype for Business Online are: any period of time that a user cannot see a presence information, conduct an instant message conversation or initiate an online meeting. Any period of time that a user cannot initiate a PSTN call or dial into PSTN conferencing. Unacceptable voice quality using the poor call classifier, which takes into account round-trip time, packet loss, jitter, and loss delay concealment factors. Voice quality claims cannot only apply to eligible calls. An eligible call is a call placed by a Skype for Business Online user that was performed on a certified desk phone or certified headset using wired Ethernet. Packet loss, jitter, and other latency issues are due to networks managed by Microsoft, i.e. their global delivery network. Therefore, you will not be able to make a claim under SLA if you're using internet connectivity, uncertified devices, wireless, or if the problem is determined to be as a result of your own network. If your claim is successful, you may be entitled to reclaim up to 100% of your user subscription back for that month. A claim is made on a per-user basis, on a pro rata basis. Recently at Enterprise Connect, Microsoft announced a number of new features coming to Skype for Business Online, Server, and Office 365. For more information and to see how easy it is to turn Cloud PBX on for E5 users, please watch the Microsoft keynote at Enterprise Connect at www.aka.ms/EC Live after this webcast. To give you a flavour of some of the new features coming, offline messaging, starting with the April build of the Skype for Business Click to Run 2016 client, it will be possible to send messages to a user whose presence status is offline. The message will be stored in conversation history, and the users will receive a missed message and email notification. For MSI-based client installations, it is yet to be confirmed when this feature will be released. Cloud PBX with PSTN calling, as we've talked about, is coming to the UK in preview in May 2016. Businesses will be able to sign up to calling plans if they have a Cloud PBX compatible enterprise license such as E5. Project Rigel is a collaborative effort between Microsoft and strategic partners Logitech and Polycom that enables businesses to use the technology inspired by the Surface Hub on a dedicated Surface Pro 4 tablet and Windows 10 to turn almost any conference room into a full Skype for Business meeting room in one click with full touch control. Most conference rooms consist of a spider phone projector or alternative display. The idea behind Rigel is to utilize this investment in hardware and use it to participate in Skype for Business meetings. The Polycom Cloud Video Interoperability Service is a technology that allows businesses to connect existing video teleconferencing systems from vendors such as Cisco and Polycom to Skype for Business Online as meeting room devices. Earlier this year, Microsoft acquired some intellectual property from Event Zero, and this will be used to improve the unified management analytics with Office 365. Event Zero's UC Commander application provided a central control and reporting point for Skype for Business, including device management such as provisioning desk phones, and additional analytical reporting on voice quality and other metrics to help administrators proactively monitor their deployment. Microsoft purchased the UC Commander's Office 365 code, and during the second half of this year will release an Office 365 unified management and reporting portal that will allow businesses to deploy, manage, and update devices such as the Polycom PBX series phones, as well as full in-depth reporting analytics that can be used to discover trend, issues, and adoption rates. Cloud Connector Edition, as previously discussed during this webcast, Cloud Connector Edition will be available at the start of April 2016 globally as a free download. Starting at the same time with the Cloud Connector Edition, the Organizational Auto Attendant will be available for businesses for automated call handling and enable callers to search and find users enabled for Cloud PBX. Using built-in Cortana services in Office 365 means the Auto Attendant has the latest in speech recognition and supports multiple languages without the need for additional dial plans, language packs, service numbers typically associated with traditional Auto Attendant provided by Exchange. Broadcast meetings are a large-scale town hall type meeting that can support 10,000 audience members. These have been in general release since the middle of 2015 to provide audio, video, and PowerPoint meetings. Coming in the second half of 2016, broadcast meetings will include a transcription service that uses the technology provided by Cortana and Bing Translate in order to provide subtitles to the broadcast for the audience members in the audience members' native language. Additional functionality is also being added to provide audience Q&A without the use of Yammer to boost audience participation and interaction. And with that, that completes my presentation, and I'll hand back to Dave now, who will talk to you about licensing and the next steps. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mark. Cheers. Okay, so I just wanted to give an overview of the E5 licensing in as much detail as we can with the time that we've got, and also have a look at a couple of the offers that Microsoft have got on at the minute to encourage people to, or make it as easy as people to start to adopt this technology. So if we look at E5, the functionality falls into three basic columns here. We've got modern collaboration, which is the Skype for Business pieces that Mark has spoken about today. Personal and organizational insights, which is made up of Power BI and Delve Analytics, and then the third part is the security pieces. There's three pieces of security there. So if we look at the modern collaboration piece, E5 includes Cloud PBX. It includes the PSTN conferencing and the unlimited use of the conferencing bridge. It includes Skype meeting broadcast, although that is available in other licenses packages as well. It is included in E5. And I've also I've highlighted at the bottom there that the PSTN calling will be available as an add-on SKU to E5 and other packages because you have the Cloud PBX piece in place. In terms of the insights piece, Power BI, I think most people are pretty familiar with business intelligence, of being able to pull multiple information sources and tailor it to present the information in graphs or tables, however you want to present that information. So you have your own personal dashboard, so it's easy for you to understand what's going on within your part of the business or the business as a whole, and make decisions thereafter. The interesting thing about Power BI is very, very simple for people to set that up themselves. It's something that you can really pick up and run with very, very quickly. Delve Analytics is a personal productivity tool. So it takes a look at how you're spending your time during the day, how much time you're spending on email and phone calls, in meetings. It also tells you who you're communicating and collaborating with, who you're not communicating and collaborating with, and setting yourself goals if you want to change your pattern of behaviour. Also looking at how much work you're doing outside the office as well. Typically, we're seeing this tool being introduced by an HR department across the whole of the organisation to understand how that organisation is functioning. One of the key things to note there is that the data that is presented back is anonymized, so we don't know which user is doing what. So it's not a big brother keeping an eye on you. It's more of a, I mean, the term they use is Fitbit for the enterprise. It's a way of understanding where people are spending their time. On the security side of things, customer lockbox comes into play if you raise a support ticket with Microsoft. It will go through to Microsoft Engineer. Microsoft Engineer will escalate it to a manager, Microsoft Manager, and then what they will then do is that the lockbox basically puts a process in place to connect back with you as the customer to say, yes, it's okay for Microsoft to have access to my data for a set period of time, because nobody has standing access to your data. So it lets you become the final gatekeeper for your information, but it's necessary in order to resolve a support issue. Advanced threat protection is all about spam, malware, malicious URLs, and zero-day attacks. So it builds upon the current level of security within Office 365. And the e-discovery piece is about if you were conducting an investigation into somebody within your organization for potentially fraud, as an example, it's a way of reviewing a small number of documents related to that person to teach the system what is relevant and not relevant for the investigation. The tool will then, once you've gone through that review process, will then go out to all the information held against that person or held or data created by that person, and pull back all the relevant information so you get a good view of what's happening. So it's just an investigation tool. So E5, and as Mark said, if you're looking at Cloud PBX and PSTN conferencing, an E5 license makes economic sense rather than going down the add-in route. I mean, you could do the sums yourself. PSTN conferencing, depending on how much you're currently using that, but typically you can build a business case of buying E5 just off the back of PSTN conferencing, but you get those additional functionality in there as well. So a couple of offers that Microsoft have on at the moment. One's a Cloud PBX adoption offer, which is running until the 30th of June. That's the end of their financial year, so that's the reason it finishes at that particular time. They're going to provide some funding to drive Cloud PBX deployments. Now, these can either be with PSTN calling, or it can be a hybrid environment. What they put in place is that you need to purchase a minimum of 150 seats of eligible licenses. So in this case, we're talking about E5 licenses, and they will give you an initial investment of $10,000 US. So they would do a conversion rate which is typically about $1.5 to the pound for a 50-seat deployment, and then they're going to provide you with additional $10 per seat up to a maximum of 50,000. So if you're interested in that, we can provide you with some further information. There is also an E5 promotion offer taking place upon license purchase. These are for E3, E4 and ECS customers, and they will provide you with a 15% discount on an E5 step up and an E5 add-on SKU between now and the end of June. So once again, up until that financial year. So if you're looking to dip your toe, as I said before, into Cloud PBX and PSTN calling, now might be a good time because of these offers that are in place. So final slide, next steps. So we offer an architectural design session, an ADS session. We have two which are relevant here. One is a general Skype one is a voice specific one, and what they basically are, it's a one-day on-site with two people, which can be paid for either independently, or you can use your DPS vouchers, or you can use your training vouchers if you want to convert your training vouchers. And it delves into this area, into either the Skype or the voice piece in much more detail. So it will look at what your current infrastructure is, your current telephony platform is, your Microsoft licensing position is, and then we will look at the features and functionality, and we go down into much more detail into the areas that Mark touched on. But we can also look at whiteboarding a scenario for you, an architecture for you. We can also start to bring in things like contact centers and attendant consoles and all the other kind of pieces that make up. So people find these really useful as initial step to looking at Cloud PBX and whether that is something that's going to be relevant to you. The other thing is to consider a proof of concept, and some of the offers that we spoke about before may be useful. And Visual ourselves, we have a limited number of demo tenants, so we can set you up on a demo tenant for a set period of time for you to trial the technology before you make any sizable investment in a proof of concept, or an architectural design session, which is probably another good first step. We have a limited number of those tenants. So in terms of next steps, we will follow up we'll follow up this meeting with some follow-on information and give you access to the recording. But if you have any questions, you're able to contact me at davidh@visual.com, or you can get in touch with your account manager. But those are kind of a recommended next step. So what I'd like to do now is open the floor to see if we have any questions.
David, I think there's a couple of questions in the Q&A.
Oh, okay, right. I didn't spot those, Brian.
Yeah, that's right. So the first one is regarding number porting, and the question is: are you able to port numbers from a consumer Skype into Skype for Business? That's a really specific question there. I'm not sure, Mark, if you know anything about that.
It depends who owns that number. So if Skype.com own that number, then I would imagine not. But if you own that number through your own ITSP, then it's just a normal number port. So I'd be inclined to say probably not at this stage, based on that question.
Okay, all right. And the next one is: so if you've got E5, we have unlimited calls, but have to have a hybrid solution. That's a question mark on the end there. So the question is: do you have to have a hybrid solution to have unlimited calls if you've got E5?
So if you've got E5 and you've got cloud only and you've got no on-premise infrastructure, then you have to have, in addition to your E5 license, a PSTN calling plan, and that will be either national or international plan. And to give you an idea, the US price point is $12 for the national plan and $24 for international plan. So whatever that will translate into UK money, I would imagine, when Microsoft officially released the pricing. If you have a hybrid solution with local on-premise PSTN connectivity, then basically you don't need a calling plan with Microsoft. You just need the Cloud PBX license, which is included in E5, and then you basically use your on-premise PSTN connections to make and receive calls. So then you'll be paying your on-premise ITSP as opposed to Microsoft.
So the first option there, we're using the Cloud PBX. That's where those 3,000 national minutes per user come in, I guess.
Yes.
And you said, I think you said in your presentation that those can be pooled within the tenant. So
yeah, unfortunately you can't buy a tenant calling plan. So you can't just buy one calling plan and assign it to every user. You have to buy an individual calling plan for every user who you want to use cloud-only voice with.
Okay. All right, and then obviously the second option, where you're using your on-premises PSTN connections, the calls are all routing out via that connection anyway. So you just be subject to the calling restrictions that you currently have with your existing service provider.
Yeah, correct. So the key differentiator in cloud-only voice is that each user gets a one-to-one connection to the PSTN. So normally businesses with traditional telephony on-premise will buy, say, 20 ISDN lines that allow them to have 20 concurrent calls at any one time. Yeah, with Skype for Business, that online with cloud-only, that's not around, so there's no limits on the amount of concurrent calls you can make. If you're licensed to consume it, you can use it. If you're using on-premise PSTN calling, then obviously you're still bound by those physical limits on your on-premise infrastructure.
Thanks for that, Mark. Has anybody else got any other questions?
There's just a question coming in from Andy, yeah.
Are there any limits on the hardware support for existing PSTN system for usage with the Cloud Connector appliance?
So Microsoft say that Skype for Business can connect to any PBX system, or almost any PBX system, but that's obviously sometimes you need some glue between systems. So what I'd recommend would be to check the PBX supported list for Skype for Business on-premise server. If your PSTN PBX is on that list, then yes, we can use it with Cloud Connector Edition. If not, then the best recommendation would be to provide a session border controller in between, such as a Sonos SPC or other vendors are around.
Cool.
Okay. Any more for any more?
Silence, and we're 3 minutes ahead of time.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay, if that's it, you got my contact details. If you've got any questions after the event, please fire them through. But we'll be in touch anyway. But if that's it, all it remains for me to do is say thank you very much for taking the time. Hope you found it useful, and hopefully speak to you soon. Thanks very much for your time.